Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TME podcast. I am your host, Miss Rhonda McAllister. I wish I could say that I am coming on today with just one of my regular podcasts, or I'm just coming to speak with you all on some regular stuff. But today I have a tale of horror. Just in case you were not aware, my podcast streams out of St. Louis, Missouri. That is my hometown. I have born and raised here. And we just endured something that I never thought would happen here. And from my recollection has never happened here. We experienced a school shooting here this past Monday at the Central Visual Performing Arts School. The school is located in South City in St. Louis, Missouri. Unfortunately, we had 2 people who lost their lives in the shooting. We had a 15-year-old. Her name was Alexandria Bell. She was a female, and a teacher who also lost her life, Miss Jean Kutzka. She was a gym teacher and a cross-country coach. She was a wife, a mother of 5, and a grandmother of 6. When I heard that she was a grandmother of 6, I was like, I got her beat by 1. But it was... So I can just give you the vantage points that I know of. So I first heard of what was happening when my boyfriend, Sylvester, texted me. And I was like, what? And even when he texted me and got the message, he's like, it's been a shooting, And I'm like, this is not real, right? Because yes, St. Louis is unfortunately known for violence, but not shootings in our schools. So I went to Facebook and looked up Real STL News. Yes, that's why I get my first place to go to for news, Real STL News on Facebook. And they were there on the scene. And if you can just imagine, I was looking at the video, and when you see all those police cars pulling up, the plane cars pulling up, the FBI pulling up, and I'm just watching on TV. And on my phone, I was horrified. I still cannot even imagine what those parents, students, and teachers and even the first responders would have been going through. This is definitely and has been a traumatic, stressful last week. Let me say that. So from what the information is now that I've read and heard and gathered, and so everything I'm going to have to say allegedly. So everything is allegedly. Nothing is factual until it's actually brought out. And I don't think they've brought out all of the facts yet. But from what we know, the shooter was a former student, which I figured he would have to have been a former student because, let me back up. I'm jumping all over the place. I'm sorry. Because the shooter entered the building, and from my understanding, he was on the 3rd floor, trying to open doors to classrooms, and some of the classrooms were locked, thank God, because had those classrooms not been locked, and he had been able to get into those classrooms, Jesus. But a lot of the classrooms were locked, so in some cases he was breaking out the windows and trying to shoot through glass or trying to get into the doors. In one of the rooms, it's my understanding that he actually broke the window, reached his hand inside, and unlocked the door himself and was able to get into that room. I don't know what room that was. I don't know what room that was. I'm not clear if the student and the teacher who lost their lives, if they were in the same room. I'm not clear on that. But what I am clear on is that teacher, Miss Jean, lost her life. Kuska lost her life because she stood in front of her students to prevent them from being shot. It's my understanding that this young man he was 19 years old, the shooter, had an AR-15 rifle. He was strapped with more ammunition on him, and he had more ammunition in the hallway of the school, in one of the hallways of the school. That's my understanding. It has been so much. They had students who were helping teachers barricade the doors. I saw a teacher of one. I saw a picture of one teacher. I think his name was Mr. Pack or Hack. I'm sorry for getting your name wrong. But he had this long stick, honey. He was going to weld somebody if they came through that door. But teachers were doing what they needed to do and what they felt they had to do to protect themselves, their classrooms, their students. Teachers were helping students to get out of windows. Students were jumping out of windows. I actually saw on the news where they were interviewing a parent, and because, just imagine you're a parent and you're getting a text from your child saying there's a shooter in the school. You are barreling like hell to get to your child, right? So imagine a chaotic scene because you've got the kids. He said the kids were coming out of everywhere, windows, doors, jumping out of the windows, just however they can get out of the building. And you had parents trying to get into the building to get to their children. You got police and the FBI on the scene. First responders. I cannot imagine. I would never want to be a parent if I don't have any kids at school age, but I do have grandchildren that are school age. All of my grandchildren are in school. I would never want to hear that any of them had a shooter in their school under any circumstance. So there are, in addition to the two people who lost their lives, Miss Alexandria Bell and Miss Jean Kutzka, we had 6 others that were taken to hospitals because they had been injured. Some of the injuries came from gunshots, and I think some of the injuries came from the students escaping the school. I do know that fortunately, I came home today to watch the interview of Alexandria Bell's mother. I saw the interview of her father last night, and his name is Andre Bell. And her mother, I didn't get her mother's name, I apologize. But her interview was heartbreaking. Alexandria would be 16 years old next month, and she was planning for her 16th birthday. And now she has to plan for her funeral. I do know that she has a GoFundMe page going up. So if you would like to donate to that GoFundMe page, please Google it. I'm sure you can find it. You may be able to find it on Facebook. At this time, I do not have that information. I was actually hoping that I had all of the victims' information and the help that they needed so I can do it all at once on the podcast, but I do not at this time. So what I will do is when I do get that information, I will come back and share it with my podcast listeners in case there's someone who wants to help the families. If you are listening to this podcast and you are in need of help or resources because you were involved with the shooting that happened at Central Visual Performing Arts this past Monday, the telephone number that they are giving out for that is area code 314-425-5355. With all of this happening, they found the young man's car, the shooter's car, outside the school. So they found a note inside of his car, and basically he was someone who suffered from a mental illness. He was young, 19 years old. In his note, from my understanding, what has been reported is that he said that he was alone. He didn't have any family. That's what he said in the note. He's never had a girlfriend. He's never had any friends. He's always felt left out. And basically, I guess that was part of his motive for doing this. And because he was a former student at the school, he knew his way around the school. The school itself, so there is a clear understanding, the school itself was locked. One of the things that slowed him down was the fact that the school was locked. He had to force himself into the school. So what I have read and understand is that one of the guards saw him trying to break into the school and was aware that he had a weapon and alerted, I'm not sure if he alerted the principal or whomever, but they have a code word that they use over the intercom. That code word was said over the school's intercom. The police was called. The police were called and they responded. From my understanding, they were there within 5 minutes of the call. Thank God. And let me say that even I give the police a hard time, okay? I do. Even me. But let me say, first of all, I cried so hard on Monday. It took me forever to stop crying because I'm an empathetic person. I'm an empath, and just imagining what those people, what everybody was going through, honey, I boo-hooed. But I applauded the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, all the first responders, the FBI, everyone that was on the scene, and to help diffuse that situation. The security guard who acted accordingly, the drills that worked the way that they were supposed to work because the school was prepared. And it's sad that we have to be prepared for a school shooting. And just to be clear, everybody says that things start at home. Yeah, okay. But I want you to know that the family of the shooter, I know what the note said, he did not have a family. But the family of the shooter has stated that they were actively and proactively getting him help and have gotten him help previously. He had been prescribed medication. He had been committed more than once. He had a gun removed from his possession. by his mother's doing. His mother actually called the police to tell them that she wanted the gun that he had removed from his possession. And the police did, and it was given to another adult. So now it's my understanding that they're trying to find out how he got the gun back into his possession again. That part is under investigation. So I know that his family is hurting as well, but I want to commend his mom and his family for doing what she needed to do to help her son. All of this brings into question so many things. Wait, before I go on to that, let me briefly mention one of the students who I know was injured in the shooting. And because his name is online and his mom was interviewed today, I'm sure they won't mind me mentioning his name, but his name is Brian Collins. His mom's name is Vondina Washington. Her story is heartbreaking as well, because her son was actually a shooting victim of the shooter. The shooter's name is Orlando Harris, and he is now deceased as well. He was shot and killed by the police in the school, and he was pronounced later at the hospital. Nobody wins in a situation like this. Like, nobody. You have the shooter who took lives, and he really intended to take more lives. It's my understanding he had over 100 rounds of ammunition. Like, and I'm not a ammunition person. Like, I don't know like how much these things hold or whatnot, but it is my understanding that he was prepared to take many lives that day. And it has been said that he allegedly was targeting certain people in certain classrooms, from my understanding. I guess more information will actually come out about that, because that has not all been revealed as of yet. But it brings into question, like, is it even safe now for our kids to be educated? You know, like the standard education, like leaving the house, catching a bus, going to school, leaving the house, being dropped off by your parents at school. You know, kids need to just be able to be kids, right? They need to be able to go to school, have fun with their friends, do all the school activities that happens in school dances, the homecoming, the proms, the football games, the track meets, all of this, whatever, the clubs and, you know, whatever, everything that happens in a school without having to worry about is someone going to come into their school and take away their peace, harm them, shoot them, hurt them. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. You know, so, and all of this happening, just think, and this is how my mind works. This has happened, and there are going to be so many long-term effects of this one event, right? Because you have the teachers and the students who were actually there and a part of all of this, and they're traumatized. I can only imagine that some of them may not be able to sleep. You know, anytime they close their eyes, that's what they see. loud noises could, it could be making them hear the shots. Because keep in mind, several of them could hear him shooting. You know what I'm saying? And getting closer to them as they were trying to hide and escape. There were a couple of the students that were interviewed on TV who said that they actually made eye contact with him. He actually made eye contact with them. This is one of the most tragic events in St. Louis. And actually, I'm tired of us having tragic events, to be honest. So it brings us a question, because the guards in the school, the security guards in the school are not armed. And I'm not saying that they should be. But it brings into question, should the schools have armed guards? Some say yes, some say no. I think it'll bring a different liability to schools, and I think that's why they have not done it. And maybe they have not felt the need to be that extreme. I know in Texas, I think it was that subject was brought up before about teachers being armed in classrooms. Same thing with teachers. Should teachers be armed? Should teachers be allowed to have some type of weapon in their classroom in a case like this? Now, one thing that I'm sure that's going to happen is that even though there were so many things that I think that the school did right, I'm sure that they're going to be evaluating every single thing. How he actually succeeded in breaking into the school, how he was able to break into some of the classrooms, and all of this. Because we don't want our children to have to go to school and feel like they're locked in, right? Like, that's not good either. But something has to be done to make our kids feel like they can go into a school, sit down in their desk, and just have to worry about being educated and not have to worry about anything else, right? This whole event is so unfortunate. And these parents who are having to care for their traumatized children, I hope and pray that they have employers who are going to be understanding and letting them be home with their children, because the children need them right now. And if I was a parent and I had a child in that situation, I would want to be with my child at this time. Like, for the rest of the week, just cancel me. Just cancel me, because I ain't doing nothing. I ain't going nowhere. Right? But just even in years to come, you just don't know what this will do to a person. I know for my own child, my son, when he had a traumatic event happen to him, he has not been the same mentally since. He has not. He will not go around a crowd of people that he does not know. He will not. And his anxiety can be off the chain in a situation like that. So parents, please be patient with your children. If you are an employer in St. Louis and you have someone whose child experienced that, but understand that parent experienced it too. These are going to be some long-term effects, some long-term healing. I'm praying for each and every one of them. I'm thanking God for the police department, the first responders, the security guards, the systems that they had in place that worked, right? And I do want to say, on behalf of TME Podcast, we are sorry that this has happened to you. And I pray that this does never happen again. Not here. Not on our watch. Not to our children. many of you don't know, my 9 to 5, my responsibility is to drive kids to and from school every day. That's what I do. So even that Monday when I went back to work the afternoon to pick up my high schoolers, to take them home, I was grateful that I was able to do so. You know, they think I'm corny anyway, so they had to hear a lecture from me on the way home. And the last thing I said to them this morning when I dropped them off is be safe. Be careful. If you see something, say something. Right? There has to be a common thing that we let all of our kids know it's okay to speak out and say something. If you see something, say something. It could save somebody. It could save them. But that's pretty much the take on the podcast today. Please send your prayers to St. Louis. Our city needs it. We are going to do what we have to heal. They're doing visuals tonight at the school. I'm sure the school would love to hear from the world. So if you're listening, please reach out to Central Visual Performing Arts, St. Louis, Missouri. It's on Kings Highway. I do not know the address. This has been TME Podcast. I am Miss Rhonda, your host. I will see you at the top. Good night.